I started reporting the cases of actual mistakes or near misses to the facility chain of command. In the process of reporting hundreds of these, approximately 20% of the ER nurses would retaliate against me. They would stop doing my orders for patients. They would refuse to answer questions in the nurse's station. They would not give me verbal reports on patients that were placed in rooms. Administration was made aware of this and yet declined to intervene to stop this behavior that was obviously interfering with my care for patients.
Unbelievable, right? That was Dr. Catherine Mitchell, a former director of the Phoenix VA Emergency Department, and that was a hearing that happened yesterday on Capitol Hill. She blew the whistle on overcrowding, among many other more grievous things that were going on under her watch. She says that she feared for her patients' lives in many cases, and as you heard, she says then she was met with retaliation from nurses on up to her bosses for what she felt was just doing the right thing. And Dr. Mitchell is our guest this morning. Doctor, welcome to America's Newsroom. It's very good to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
You know, your story is extraordinary, and you were in a leadership position, and you started to express what you saw as situations that were leading to, overcrowding is the least of it. You said everybody who was there was overtaxed in terms of the jobs that they were doing. You were concerned about suicide, about patient care. Were you surprised when you first started to talk about these things that other people didn't say, oh, yes, you're right, thanks for speaking up?
No, I wasn't surprised because in the history of the 16 years that I've been there, in general, management does not like to hear bad news. The saying, shoot the messenger, is probably alive and well in the VA system in many cases. Their responses to bad news has always been unpredictable, but usually it results in damage to your own professional career. So when you approach these things, you have to do it in such a politically correct form that you can reduce your risk of retaliation.
Yeah, so it sounds, from your account, that most people that work there were just trying to cover themselves. They wanted to get there, do their job, go home at night, and have a job when they woke up again in the morning. And they didn't seem to care too much. Many of them, I know you say a lot of the people that you work with were, had their heart in the right place, but
I wouldn't say it was many. I wouldn't say it was many of them. There were a few of them in positions of power. The majority of employees at VA do a fantastic job, and almost everyone in the ER, with the exception of those nurses, were incredibly disturbed by the situation that was occurring there. I was the one who was in the position of leadership, so I was the one who took their concerns as well as my own and brought them forward to management. Unfortunately, that didn't result in a whole lot of change.
And at one point, you filed a report that you understood through the process would be confidential about your complaints, and that was then leaked. Tell us about that.
Yes, I filed a confidential OIG complaint. I filed it through the Senator's office. It was in regards to multiple situations. When I filed it, I went to every friend that I had in the VA system and said, tell me your life-threatening issues. Tell me the things that can't wait for the usual slow process of change. I'll put them forward into my complaint because I wanted my complaint to have the biggest chance of making a positive impact. When I filed the complaint in the past, names have been leaked and there's been retaliation. I knew there would be a good chance that my name would be leaked also because nothing had changed in the OIG system. For that reason, I told all my friends to give me the information that could not be traced back to them because I wanted to make myself the only target. We only have so many chances to make change, and I didn't want to lose other good employees because they would fall victims of retaliation.
Tell us how you personally were retaliated against.
Well, part of it I described in the meeting last night, in that nurses would directly impede my care as far as not doing my orders, not giving me a verbal report, not even handing me EKGs or answering simple questions like, who's the charge nurse? There was more to the retaliation. My proficiencies dropped. I have, according to my proficiencies on record, my ethics are just whatever is barely passing. The same thing for my medical skills and my administrative ability. I worked unlimited hours for scheduled shifts for 2 years. Because I'm a Title 38 employee, I'm considered a 24/7 employee. The HR department interpreted that to mean that I could be made to work unlimited scheduled shifts for 2 years. I was incredibly exhausted. The understanding that I have is that it's not legal to do that you can only schedule someone for 80 hours, although your workday certainly can extend past the usual 8-hour day. Working that many hours is dangerous to any one person. I could not, it was not legal for me to make my colleagues do that, so I absorbed all the extra shifts and worked split shifts and unusual shifts in order to try and provide minimum staffing coverage.
Are you convinced that any good will come of this, or do you think that this story will end up, just sort of going away, and that things will carry on as they have been at these VA hospitals at the expense of our veterans who fought and risked their lives for this country?
What happens next depends on what the public's reaction is and what the veteran reaction is. In general, all the other scandals in the VA, once the cameras turn off and politicians go back to their lives, everything just reverts back to the way it was. I'm hoping that there'll be enough understanding for the public to realize that this is an issue that can't be swept underneath the carpet. It can't be ignored. It has to be addressed now. Otherwise, our entire VA system is going to implode.
As you pointed out, all the way back to Abraham Lincoln, the foundations of this system was to serve our veterans and to make sure that their families got the care that they needed as well. And you feel that that has been egregiously failed in so many ways. And thank you very much for coming forward, and thanks for talking to us today, Doctor.
Oh, thank you for having me.